Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to provide an example of using the double step-down method for allocating support center costs down to the mission centers of an organization for the purpose of understanding what the full costs of those mission centers are, that being the direct costs, which we already have, they're given here, but also the indirect costs. So we've got this soup kitchen here that's $500,000 to operate in direct costs, but some portion of the full costs come from the administrative cost center and the purchasing cost center. And in order to understand what the full costs of the soup kitchen are, we want to allocate these two cost centers that are support cost centers down into these two mission centers. So what we're going to do here is start by remembering that the decision was made to use the number of purchase orders as a metric to allocate the purchase center costs to the other cost centers. And we're going to use the number of FTEs as the basis for allocating the administration's direct costs down into the other cost centers. So step one in our analysis is we have to identify the proportion of these purchase orders that will be used to allocate out the purchasing direct costs down to the other cost centers. And just like we've done in other allocation bases, we're not going to be concerned with the purchasing activity that the purchasing cost center does for itself. So I'm just going to delete that out here because it's not going to be relevant to my allocation. I'm not going to allocate money back to myself in the purchasing cost center. And that's going to be the same thing with this administration. I'm not going to be allocating back any of this money directly back to the administration cost center based on the fact that there's 20 FTE in the administration cost center, so I'll just delete that out. So that changes the denominator that we have here, or the sum of the allocation basis activity, and it's also therefore going to affect the proportions. So we're using the same logic here that we used for the first stage of the step-down method, where we're looking from the purchasing cost center's perspective, we're looking at all of the allocable activity or the allocation basis activity that occurs outside of that cost center. And then here for admin, looking at all of the allocation basis activity occurring outside of the cost center. So this is pretty straightforward. We can just say, therefore, that 950 of the 1,000 purchase orders occurring outside of the purchasing cost center happen in the administration cost center. So the vast majority of them. And then 10 of the 1,000 occur from the soup kitchen, or in the soup kitchen, and 40 of the 1,000 occur in the counseling center. And I'm just going to change these. And then we can double check here that these are going to sum to 100%, but like obviously we can do that math pretty easily in our head as well. Then we'll do the same thing over here where the administration, what portion of this administrative activity that we're using, the FTE, is in the purchasing department or the purchasing cost center, and that's responsible for 2 of the 100, and so that's going to be 2%. And then the soup kitchen is 92 of the 100, and the counseling center is 6 of the 100. And that's all going to add up here. Oops. It's all going to add up to 1, and then we'll put it in percentage. Okay, so now we've identified the proportion of the purchase orders that are in all of the cost centers outside of purchasing, and the proportion of personnel outside of the cost center, in the cost centers outside of administration. Now we need to allocate this out, all the $25,000 and all the $280,000, and get it all down, identify what the indirect costs are for the soup kitchen and for the counseling center. So the way we do this is we're going to do it in multiple stages, and we're going to let money go back and forth between the two support centers until all of it has been finally allocated out in its entirety to the two mission centers. So I'm going to start here with purchasing. Purchasing has $25,000. That's what its beginning balance is. And here's administration. Administration starts out with $280,000. Okay. So how much of this $25,000 is going to go to admin? Well, it's going to be 95% of it is actually going to go to admin. And then I'm going to take how much is going to go to the soup kitchen? Well, it's going to be 25,000 times the 1% that'll go to the soup kitchen. And then how much will go to the counseling center? Well, it's going to be this 25,000 times the 4%. So the vast majority of this money is being allocated out of purchasing and going to admin, not down to the other two cost centers, the mission centers yet. This means that our beginning balance here for admin starts with this 280,000, but now we've sent some money over to it that we have to recognize. So now we've got actually 303,750. That's the original 280,000 plus this money that was sent over to admin from the purchasing cost center. So how much is going to go back to purchasing? Well, we'll take this balance in the administration cost center now and multiply it by the 2% that goes to purchasing. And then we'll take the 303,750 again and multiply it by the 92% that goes to the soup kitchen. And then we'll take the this for the counseling center again, the 303,750, and multiply it by the 6% that goes to the counseling center. Okay, now we're going to come up here to stage 2, and what's our beginning balance going to be in stage for purchasing in stage 2? Well, now it's just this $6,075 that went back to the purchasing cost center, and now we have to allocate that $6,700 or $6,075. So we'll take the $6,075 and multiply it by 95% of it, which is going to go to administration, and we're going to then take the $6,075 and send 1% to the soup kitchen, and $6,075 and send 4% to the counseling center. Now, it would be a lot easier for us here if we just lock in this reference so that when we bring money back up here in the stage 3, we can just autofill over. So let's do that here. Let's lock in this 95%, which is in D14. I'll just lock that in. And then I'm going to lock in this D15, the percent that goes to the soup kitchen, and I'll lock in the D16 here. Okay. Now, what's the beginning balance in stage 2 for administration? Well, last stage we emptied it out. We sent all of it to the other cost centers. But in stage 2, we've sent some back, $5,771 and some. So I'll just come up here and recognize that reference. And then I'm going to multiply the $5,771 that went back into administration by the amount that administration is going to send to purchasing. The 2%, I'll lock that in. And then $5,771 times the 92% that goes to the soup kitchen, I'll lock that in. And then $5,771 times the 6% that goes to the counseling cost center, and I'll lock that in. Okay. Now all I have to do here, given that this cell references back to what the previous stage's balance was for purchasing, if I click and drag this over, it'll bring up this $115 that was sent back up over into purchasing. And then I can, if I've set up my references correctly, I can slide this over, and we see that $109 is sent down to administration. So we see if that came over correctly. Yep. And just to show, this was the $115 times the 95%. And then I can slide this over. And we still have some money. We have to keep going through these stages until we've allocated out all of the money down to the mission centers. So we've still got 4 cents. Here's our balance of 4 cents that's stayed in there. And now we've allocated it all out. I'll just go one more stage so that I know that there's whatever little bit of that's not shown in the rounding is gone or nearly gone. So here we've allocated the whole thing out. So now there's no money that's bouncing back, or like there's no material amount of money that's bouncing back. And I've usually found that if you go out as much as 10 stages, you're going to get you're going to get it all taken care of. So sometimes I just don't even worry about it. I just will allocate all the way out over there, and I'll know that that's taken care of. So what has happened here is we've taken this $25,000 that was in the purchasing, the direct cost for purchasing. We've allocated it out to the other cost centers. Then some of it bounced over into admin, and we allocated out everything from admin. Some of that went back to purchasing. So we had to do this again, and we're just we're cycling through again and again but every time we cycle, we send some extra down into the mission centers, and once it goes to the mission centers, it stays in the mission centers. So the only part that's bouncing back and forth is the part that's that's staying in the support centers, and it'll stay in there until we've sent all of it, or at least the material amount of it, out to the mission centers. So what is the direct cost then of the soup kitchen? Well, we know that, from above, it was given to us at $500,000, and the direct cost for the counseling cost center is the $50,000, and the indirect costs for the soup kitchen are going to be the sum of all of the money that came ever from purchasing down into the soup kitchen, plus the sum of all of the money from admin that was ever allocated to the soup kitchen. So we add that up, the $285,174.31. So the full cost of the soup kitchen are the sum of those two. This and the amount that was kept being sent in each stage, kept being allocated out in each stage to the soup kitchen, and this is the amount that was originally in the soup kitchen, the direct cost. And so that also means the counseling center will just be the sum of how much came from purchasing. I'll show you that's how much came from purchasing, and then we'll just add that to the sum of how much came from admin. And then the full cost for the counseling center cost center is the $50,000 that was originally in there as a direct cost, and the $19,000 that was allocated to the counseling center. So if we've done this correctly, the sum of the full costs should be the same as the full costs here were for all of these. So this shows us, given that our full costs are the same as our direct costs for all 4 of our cost centers, that shows that we have, well, it's a good check that these calculations here have fully allocated out all of the costs. So the sum of this indirect costs here should be the same as the sum of these 2 cost centers, which it is, $305,000. Okay, so that is an example of working through the reciprocal or double step down cost allocation method, and I hope it's helpful.